Hey everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Community Q&A. I am joined today by two incredible people from our community team who are Pann. Hey Pann.
Hello.
As well as Deckard. Hey Deckard.
Hello.
And I am Sesch, your host today. I'm the general manager of the Montreal studio. So we asked you guys, our beloved players, to ask us questions about the two latest releases, Ares and Apollo. And we picked up the questions that were actually on topic. And we will do our best to answer these questions today. So Pann and Deckard went chasing those answers for you guys. And we will do our best to carry the good words of the development team. Does that work? So we have a first question about weapons. So the question came from Waffle Boy. Are there going to be any buffs or nerfs to engines or weapons anytime soon? And there was a follow-up question from Walter. Will railguns get a buff? They are not viable right now. So who wants to take this?
I can take it because it's an easy answer. I say it's hard when it's
Good.
for
Well,
Deckard.
that's a good start.
We are planning to do a weapons pass in Demeter, which is our next update that's in production right now. So I'll have some dev blogs that give more information about that. There aren't any current plans to make changes to engines. We're kind of weighing out the best ways to achieve it. We know the players want them, but it's unlikely that those changes are going to make it into Demeter.
Okay. I'm going to put a stop to the Q&A here because I want to talk about the antlers and the Mickey Mouse ears. I forgot. I wanted to do that in the intro. So what the hell, guys? Antlers and Mickey Mouse ears? Like I look like I'm just super bland now. Like there's nothing. So you told me there's something. It's actually not Mickey Mouse ears, right, Pann?
Well, yeah, they are Mickey Mouse ears. They're from Disneyland or Disney World.
Nice.
But they're the Peter Pan version because it's got the second star to the right.
I am so
and
jealous.
Tinkerbell. It's one of three. I actually have this set, which are my Pride ears.
Wow.
And probably pretty soon I'll change over to my candy corn ears.
Well, you have several.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That's awesome. So
my office is full of Pan and Disney stuff. Which you can't see.
next video we release, you have to have another one. And what's with the antlers, Deckard, by the way? Is there a story behind it?
So it started last Christmas where we were all in lockdown, and I thought, well, I'm going to expansively, every time I enter a meeting, I just put more Christmas decorations in the background, and
I can
that
testify
exponentially got worse and worse and worse.
It's what he does. There's always a surprise in your background. And Deckard has this thing where he photoshops something for every meeting, and he writes something in the back like Pann, please don't fire me, or Sesch sucks. And so every time we go into a meeting, it's the question, so what the hell is going to be in his background?
Anyways, signboard hamster. I miss him. We haven't seen him in a while.
Oh, I'll need to bring him back again.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the questions. There's a question from, I'm pretty sure I'm going to butcher that name, so I apologize in advance, Ilviperli.
I think, and let me say this, I'm sorry to interrupt because this isn't like Q&A stuff, but I am always amused by the names that I see like in Discord and on the forum. Some people get really creative. And so, yeah, I just want to mention that because that's sometimes the only laughs I get during the day are some of the names that the players have. Anyway, I think that this is Viper, and he's just got the cool little things on the ends to make it look fancy.
Oh, nice.
So we'll see.
Okay.
Viper, am I right or is Seb right? You can tell us.
My mind was going into that's an Italian player, and it's something Italian, but yeah, I was probably too far off. So his question, or her question, is can we expect to get different types of shields, different colors for different types? And I'm going to turn to Deckard because I feel like he wants to take that one.
So currently we've just implemented them, and we would like to expand on them with some more different colors, different variations of the shields. However, they're still very much in a phase where we want to see what the impact is of them in the game, how they're used, which way they go, before we expand on giving more variations to them. So they probably will come, but it probably won't be soon. We need to really measure the impact of the shields before we do anything.
That's actually true for a lot of things that we just introduced, right? A lot of them.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, shields just came in with Apollo, and then Ares was very quickly, released after Apollo, like within a month. So shields are still pretty new, and you have to have a starting point. You can't just jump in and have these shields that do 1,000 different things. It's the aim small, miss small. So you want to put them in there, give them some basic functions, and then see where the players want them to go and what changes we need to make.
But we need to say that whatever changes are unlikely to be in Demeter, and if we just lift the curtains on our production, we just released Ares, but actually Demeter is already in production. It should actually be on the PTS in a couple of weeks, something like that. I don't want to give an exact date because the production team is just going to kill me. So it's already in production. It has been in production for a little while, and the content of Demeter is pretty much locked. But for things like adjustments to shields, it doesn't have to come in a major update, so we can't give you an exact date. I, for one, would really like to see a big battle that would look like fireworks with all these shields lighting up in space of different colors. I think it would look pretty cool and pretty nice. But we'll see how you guys use the shields and how you play with those new toys that we give you, like venting. For instance, and then we'll adjust based on that. So, I love the next question because this is going to be a shameful one for somebody in this call. So it's
somebody not me.
Somebody not me either.
Uh-oh.
So brace yourself, Deckard. So the next question is, why for the Lua in the release notes has not been mentioned that the list coming out from the warp unit has been changed and the previous .error message now becomes .text status. I expect any change in the code will be mentioned so that we can update our script. So are you ready for your walk of shame, Deckard?
I'll just go and excuse myself.
Someone forgot to put it in the release notes. I guess this is time for apologies in a way.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry that Deckard stinks so much. I actually, because this is a hard thing to talk about during like a vlog, so instead of trying to read out what the changes were, I made a forum post this morning. The thread is called, let me see what I wrote,
Lua changes in Ares.
Yeah, in Ares. And so if you go there, you'll see what the script changes were. We took away a couple of things, changed a couple of things, added some stuff. So go there. And please, I just want to say thank you to Aviator 1280 who pointed this out to us, and make sure that you let us know. Like, that was a great thing to bring up if we've forgotten something, especially with the Lua scripting, because I know that is an important change for people who do the Lua stuff, and you guys blow me out of the water with the things you make. If you notice something is weird about the Lua scripting, bring it to our attention. We are happy to take a look and get the right information to you.
And I have to say the release note process is not an easy one, actually. I don't know how the players actually picture it. It's like one of the most complicated ones in the company, maybe, because the QA, quality assurance, they have kind of the final say on the release and what goes and what doesn't. So it's a mix between the dev team, the production team, the QA team, and then Deckard and Pann work on the actual release notes, and then it gets sent to a bunch of people, try and make sure that it's all correct. But we're just human after all, I guess. And,
the phrase "too many cooks" comes to mind.
Yes.
And
actually,
even though it's fun to blame Deckard for things, and we do it often, and I try to fire him.
We should do it more often. I agree.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
I try to fire him every Wednesday, just out of spite.
I'm still here.
Yeah, he's still here. He won't go away. But the truth of the matter is, it's not necessarily Deckard's fault that didn't make it into the release notes.
Oh.
So it's just fun to blame him.
Okay,
It is,
so
however, it is, however, worth mentioning, however, that although we try to keep the release notes as absolutely as detailed as we possibly can, we try not to put an overwhelming amount of granular detail into them. But there is, because it has to be readable by most people, and there are some technical aspects that we sometimes don't include. However, if you catch something that you feel is missing, absolutely don't feel like you can't pull me up on it at any point and send me a message and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
you forgot something."
And actually, Pann does
oh.
a pretty good job at trying to turn these notes into something readable and understandable. So, good job.
That's why I get paid.
Oh, you're paid? Who said that?
Wait.
I am earning my kibble, as I always say. But about giving us feedback, I know that forums are kind of passe these days. Like everybody wants to be in Discord. The problem with Discord is that we aren't always in there. It gets distracting. At least for me, like I just want to read what people are saying and I want to chat, and that keeps me from doing the actual work that I need to do. So that's point number one. Number two, it's so fluid. It changes so quickly that you could be saying some amazing things in there that we don't see because we weren't in there to see them. So as much as people dislike forums, that's absolutely the best way to point out or point out something that may be missing from the release notes, or ask questions about something in the release notes, or to give us feedback about something. The forums is still the best way. I'm sorry, I know nobody likes them, but that's
So,
the truth.
quote of the day.
Yeah,
Quote of the day, Pann says, go to the forums.
go to the forums, or you can send in a support ticket, and that will get routed to the right place. So either of those things, but if we're just being told things in Discord, it's going to get lost. Anyway, that's my spiel. I'm done.
So we're now going to move on to one of my favorites topics from the recent releases, which is asteroids. So asteroids was big in the Apollo release. It was our new shiny feature. So that's a way for players to acquire ore, including some rare ore, higher tier ore that are spawning in asteroids, in particular in the PvP zone. So that's I'm going to quote Pann here. That's a lot of possibilities for pew, pew, pew. Can you actually say it
Pew,
yourself?
pew.
Because, oh, nice. So you do it much better than I do.
No, you
She
say that.
writes
It's
pew,
like you
pew,
say
pew
lol.
all the time. Like every time we talk about PvP, there's going to be pew, pew somewhere coming from Pann.
Because that's what you say. It's that's what the cool kids say.
It just sounds like a very small
Pew,
weapon
pew.
when you say that. I imagine bigger weapons, I guess, in my head.
Pew, pew.
So we have a question from Physics. Hey, Physics. Is there a back-end reason asteroids are only on a Saturday spawn time? Why not passive spawning and removal of asteroids as they are disturbed? That is actually a very, very good question that we have been discussing as late as yesterday. Who wants to take that on?
I'll take that one. So, similar to the shields in a way, we need to have, when we implemented the asteroids, we need to have a starting point. And in this particular starting point, we decided we wanted to focus on having the asteroids kind of coalesce in the weekend where the majority of the activity is. And we wanted that to happen in such a way that we would incentivize more interaction at the asteroids. However,
so interaction being that the higher tier ores appear out in PvP space.
correct.
So
yes.
it increases the likelihood that if you're out there trying to get higher tier ore, you're going to have some pew pew.
Pew 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 pew. Yeah, exactly.
Never gets old.
So by making that happen over the weekend, we try to steer towards that more. However, that might not be the perfect solution, and we might have to revisit that over time. And that's part of and parcel why we don't go overboard immediately and put everything in for a single feature right away. But we kind of place it in there, and then see how that vibes with the community, and see how that gets used, and then say that it goes well after 2 months, or people don't like a certain aspect, we can always revisit it and adjust it, and that's a change that might possibly happen. I don't have a confirmation on that right now, however.
Something we can say is we are aware that not everybody is playing Dual Universe on a Saturday. I mean, it just blows my mind that people would not be playing Dual Universe on a Saturday, but apparently that's a thing. And that, there's different time zones, and so, the Saturday thing. So the reason why we chose Saturday is because that's when we have the most players, right? It's as simple as that. So we wanted as many players as possible to benefit from it. But we do have conversations about having them on Saturday and other days, or just a different way to spread them. So this is just the beginning, and I'm going to see this a lot, but we're still in beta, so there's still a lot of things that will get adjusted over time.
Right, and so just, we've already said it, but I want to acknowledge again that we've gotten a lot of feedback about it, that, the 7-day cycle isn't optimum for everyone, especially, there are some people that don't work a straight Monday through Friday job, and they have to work on Saturdays, and so they kind of get the short end of the asteroid stick. So we have seen those comments, and we're looking at what our options are, changing it from maybe a 7-day, which is what it is now, to a 5-day. There's a lot of variables in there and a lot of unknowns. So just know that we're working on it.
So moving on to core combat stress, and that's a question from Inferno with a Y. What was the problem you were trying to solve with the core combat stress mechanic? Do you think it will discourage builders from using voxels on their PvP ships? Actually, it's quite the opposite, but we're going to get to that. So, whose turn is it?
It's Deckard's turn. This one
it's
gets
always Deckard's turn.
This one gets,
it's your turn for every
difficult
question.
ones are mine. I see how
yeah,
that works.
I'm not gonna
we're just going to take the easy ones, and we're going to give you the hard ones.
Yeah, so I will say that, I have basic information because I worked with the designers to write the dev blog. So I have basic information about this, but it gets pretty involved. This is a new feature. Core combat stress just came in with the Ares update, so it's still pretty new. So yes, Deckard.
Actually, I can give you a good segue.
Okay.
The truth is, we at the moment, and still to this day, not all the operations on the voxels are processed by the server in time, right? So the truth is we have a lot of frequent misses as these operations time out and are replaced in the queue. So it makes for a little bit of an unfair PvP fight. So that's one of the key things that we were trying to address, actually, is those timeout operations on voxels during combats that got lost in the process and that resulted in frequent misses. And the goal was to make sure that these damage operations were not being ignored. But technically, we have a fix for that, actually, but it's one that's going to take a long time. I'm not going to say what it is, but we have a fix for that. But it's just not a fix that we can do in just a couple of weeks or even just a couple of months. It's more of a longer term one. So we will fix that. And the idea was to have a short-term solution that would help players during PvP, would make sure that these hits are not being missed, and that was like the short-term solution. So it's like a secondary winning condition that allows us to take into account all the different shots being fired. You want to add to that?
Yeah, it also offers us a second point of leverage, shall we say, over the duration of fights and the mechanics of fights and future impact from various other mechanics we might bring in that, for example, allow us to not only solely rely on element HP and voxels that make up a construct for the condition of a victory. So what we were seeing early on was very much that people were just making solid cubes of voxels to fight with in PvP. And we want to try and curb that and allow for more playability for not only having tons of voxels to be a valid approach to gameplay. Sure, this is not perfect yet. There's still much more balancing that we need to do with this. It's a new feature, and as always with new features, we test them. We think we're in a happy place with them. We roll them out, and then we find out maybe not yet. It still needs more tweaking. So
because it's that time to kill thing, the TTK. Like, you don't want it to
yes.
be too short, but at the same time, you don't want it to be just impossible to, 20 minutes and hey, I'm done. Somebody die.
So
yeah.
So it serves two purposes. To summarize, is one is we wanted to attack the fact that we currently don't process on the server side all the shots that are being fired, and also we wanted to have an adjustment variable for the length of the fight. And believe it or not, the purpose was actually the exact opposite of what is in the question. Also, just to encourage builders to use voxels on their ships and honeycombs in particular, and actually stop building cubes. But we'll see how they get used. I guess it's one of these things where proof is in the pudding, I guess.
Yeah, and there's more balancing to do. We're also somewhat considering the option of having bleed through on shields so that there is a reason to have voxels. Like, you do need to have voxels. However, or honeycomb in this particular case. However, we want to find a healthy balance there, and that's what we're still working on.
Moving on to a performance question. A question from Ving. I'm seeing a very high frequency of game crashes after the update. So I think we're talking about the Ares update, mostly in build mode and repeatable. Is this acknowledged by NQ? And can we get an estimate on a fix, please? So the master of crashes at Nova Quark is Mr. Deckard. So I'm turning to you, Mr. Deckard. So blame him for the crashes as well. It's his fault. It's all his fault.
So yes, it's quite likely when every time we deploy a major update, we're pushing a lot of features out, and we have a certain amount of time that we can dedicate to, and that we realistically can spend testing the game with a limited amount of people. When we equate that, for example, to the amount of time that our players spend playing the game, I think our testing time is often matched within the first half a day. The players have matched all our testing that we've done in the last few hours simply by square volume of the players, which means they will always find more bugs than we do. They will always find more crashes than we do, and unfortunately some of them slip through the net. And in this particular case, I believe this is a crash that was reproducible, related to the movement tool, the move elements tool in build mode, and I believe we fixed it since. Probably since the question.
If there is another crash that's not the one that Deckard just talked about, please send us a support ticket and detail the steps to reproduce and what's happening. And the more we get that information from you guys, the better it is. And this is where I'm going to plug one of my favorite topics. You want to help us discover these crashes in advance? Just go to the PTS, test the versions on the PTS.
Right.
We're not going to say it enough. We need more people on the PTS, because the PTS is supposed to be the place where we can see the crashes, like the issues in advance before we put it into production. So the more we have, as Deckard was saying, a volume of people playing on the PTS, the easier it is for us to figure those out before we push them to production. So
right. So
go to the PTS.
Let me add to this by saying, yes. So as many people as we can get on the test server, fantastic. But here's the thing, like Deckard was saying, we've got a QA team, and we have people, like the team itself, the whole team plays the game. It doesn't matter whether you've got 5 people or 100 people that are testing something. The more people that touch on it and click different buttons, there's going to be new combinations of things. There's going to be different PC configurations. One of the crashes that we've had to deal with recently, we were able to track back to people who use a certain graphics card.
Yes, a certain brand. And actually most employees had another brand, and that's something
exactly.
that we're trying to fix as well, is trying to get more variety of hardware.
Yeah, one of the worst situations that I dealt with when I was working on Eve was we bricked some computers with a big update. Like we had done this big expansion and some people's computers got bricked because even though it had gone through very strenuous testing, and a lot of players had tested it, and people in the company had tested it, our QA guys had tested it, nobody had restarted their computer. And that was where the problem came in, because you rebooted your computer and it bricked it. So hopefully, like, that's the only time I have to deal with anything like that, but it just is a great example of why it's so important that as many people as possible will test this stuff out, because you're going to click things in a way that we didn't think to click them. Your computer equipment is going to be different. Your internet connection is going to be different. So that's why it's important.
I'm actually going to do a big shout out to our QA team, because they have a heck of a job. I mean, this is this is not a level based game where you just go from A to Z. This is a systems-based game, so they have to figure out all the possible interactions of a new feature with the existing systems in the game, and I don't know how they do it because there's like a million test cases. So they actually do a heck of a job to figure out most of the bugs that we can find beforehand. And if they were not around, we would have a way worse situation. So hey, QA team, good job. Keep up the good work, and thanks to our community who help us on the PTS.
Yeah, PTS players, big shout out.
Okay, moving on. Organizations from Jasper1, Jasper_1. Is there any news on the topic of unlimited org creating?
So that was something that we had announced, a month, was it? How long ago was that, Deckard? Like 2 months ago that we said that we were going to change?
2 months ago, I think.
Yeah, because people were just able to create these unlimited pyramid scheme kind of orgs that was causing a lot of trouble.
Nested organizations, yes. That's what we call them.
So nested, like 100 deep nested. Maybe not that bad, but yeah.
And it was literally used as a workaround for some of the limitations in the game. So I guess we are going to do something.
We did have one case where a single individual owned 300 different organizations, which is slightly outside of the scope of what the game was designed around.
You know who you are. If you're listening to this, you know who you are.
Good job, buddy.
That took a lot of time.
That
took a lot of time,
Big investment and a lot of time spent on that one, and it's one of the reasons why we have to address this topic.
Yeah, we actually have both design and cost implications in the way that it is currently set up in the game. Because every construct that exists in the game has a cost as well, both in terms of performance and in terms of money. So we just can't have infinite of everything to the players. That's not going to work. We have to put limits, and limits that feel like somewhat natural, I guess, because that's going to cause a problem in the long term. So the truth is, we haven't really established what the parameters or options will be, so that we find a healthy balance. It works with the players and it works for the long term, and also obviously we want to give players a heads up, like we tried to do last time, I guess, so that they have time to make changes to their organizations and not being caught by surprise. So we will do something. We wish we could be, discussing the solution right now and not just telling you, hold on, it's coming, but hold on, it's coming.
But that's what we're going to do.
And unfortunately also no ETA, but it's pretty high on the priority list.
In fact, it's been long enough ago that we said that we probably should repeat it, because we've gotten, a lot of new players since then who may not be aware of it. And since you can still do it, we need to let people know, hey, don't do that. You've got time to address that and fix things before the big change comes that will make it not possible to do it.
And that's actually, we're not going to discuss this here, but that's an interesting topic of catching up new players who are joining the game now with everything we've said and we've talked about in the past, and onboarding them on all this huge context that we build with the community, and that's not an easy topic. We are now going to talk about repair units. Actually, I'll take that one because I like that one. Why? So that's a question from Dread Keeper. Why does the repair unit not actually repair broken elements? Because that's not how it's designed. The current design is not that it's a repair unit, actually, even though that's the name. It's like a Wayback Machine, if you want. So you take a snapshot of a construct at a given point in time, and the repair unit goes back to that snapshot. Okay, so your construct is going to go back to the state when you had the you took the snapshot. So that's actually having repair units do repair. So just you put in scrap in a container, I guess, linked to the repair unit, and then it just repairs your construct. That is something that we would love to do. No ETA, because it's part of the tons of things that we want to do that are like improvements to existing features. So we know that's an improvement that we could make, we would like to make, but it's just a matter of when we have the time to do it. The thing is, we have a system that's kind of working right now. As long as you know how it works and you understand the snapshot idea. And yeah, I guess it's functional. You guys want to say something on the topic, or?
No, I mean, I really want to just add indeed that we've really heard that I've lost count of how many times I've heard that people really wanted to use scrap, and that it's really something that we've heard. However, we haven't really been able to get around to yet. So it's something that we would like to do in the future.
Yes, I feel like we've said that a couple of times. Hopefully it doesn't get old. You wanna do a pew pew? Just lighten the mood.
Pew pew.
Pal.
It's not really pew pew appropriate, but I will say this. That's one of the bummer things about what we do is we know that players have asked for something, or we see the feedback, and we know the things that they would like for us to do. The list is pretty long. We can't do it all at once, so we have to look at the list and say, what can we get done now? What needs to wait a bit? And a lot of times we have to say, yes, this is happening, but we can't tell you when. We don't do that because we're mean, like, oh, I have some secret knowledge and I'm going to hide it away from you. I mean, it's just, we may not know exactly where it's going to fall into place. Sometimes it may take longer to make a change. Sometimes we may be done more quickly than we expected. But the main point I wanted to make is, you've heard us say already many times, we know it's coming, but we don't know when. And I just wanted to say, we don't like having to say that, but it's the safest answer.
And it's I have to say, because we are part of the discussions with the production team, the development team, it's a constant struggle between improving what we already have and adding new features that we think are necessary in order to get out of a beta state at some point and just launch the game and feel like it's got a strong basis and a strong foundation. So some things like PvP, and actually that's a great segue to the next question.
It totally is. Yeah,
they need work. See how I work that in.
Right. Yeah.
It's some pillars of the game, some parts of the game they just needed more love, and some parts we think they just work. They could be better, but they just work. And because we only have so many resources in terms of the people working the company and the development team, we have to make choices. Heartbreaking choices a lot of the times. And clearly the repair unit, because it's in a state that we think is working, we know it could be better, but it's working, it's functional. It's probably not going to make it in the priority list, for a while, just because there's so many other things that we think are needed to be worked on in the game and that we want to work on as we're still in a beta state. So my segue to the question from Aaron Kane. I like that question, actually. I like all the questions, but this one in particular. I'm happy we get an opportunity to answer that question. DU used to be a 6-pillar based game. Why did you make PvP a priority and kill most of the other pillars? Or will you add content of an equivalent force to the other 5 pillars soon? At the moment, some pillars are very poorly accessed. And that actually the last part of the sentence is true. Some pillars are more developed in the game than others. We usually say that pillars like building are much more advanced than other ones in the game. And the reason why we made a focus on PvP recently is because we felt like PvP was kind of the lost child a little bit, and it needed a lot more love than other pillars that we had been working on more in the past. It's as simple as that.
That's not to say that we haven't added things outside of the
We
PvP
have.
spectrum, but they're
Right. Yeah.
they're maybe not as significant as the other updates, where this update's really had major PvP impact, shall we say? But we have added various other subjects like the lieu screen units, which are one of my favorites. The docking and boarding controls, and some map improvements, and there are various other things that are related to other topics other than PvP that have been improved. However, this particular set of updates has been quite heavily PvP focused for the reason that we hadn't spent too much time on it previously.
Right. Yeah.
And even for some pillars that we consider to be more advanced in the game, like building, at the beginning of the year we introduced new tools. I think it was in the 0.24 update, if I'm not mistaken, the one that didn't have a code name yet.
Yes.
And so even then we added that. So for when it comes to the other pillars, I mean, for building, for instance, Asteroid is part of the like the whole building revamp, which we'll explain in a vlog, I guess, pretty soon. Probably in the next couple of weeks. And there's Demeter, which is very focused on building as well, with the introduction on mining. Sorry, with the introduction of mining units. So it's not all PvP, but we had to do something about PvP, and we will be continuing to do more work on PvP, just like we will continue to do more work on the other pillars as well. So, docking. Snipey asked, why are the docking areas so massive? I can't even leave one docked construct on a station to lock it in place because I'm on a dynamic construct. My ships will just float away. There's another question from Drakostan. Why is there such a massive difference in onboarding distance between on planet and on a space station? On the planet, I seem to be onboarded as soon as I leave the physical bounds of the construct voxel work, but in space it can be almost a full core width away before I am onboarded. And last question, hold your breath, that's 3. Zartine, sorry, I'm probably going to butcher another name. Why did you decide on the current docking mechanisms where you can seamlessly fly in and out of the area without an optional lock into the docking area for constructs? With such a lock, leaving the docking area would become explicit, allowing some on-the-move shenanigans that are not possible now or before. I feel like this is one for Deckard, really.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here.
I hope you took notes, because that's 3 long questions.
Okay, so let me dial this back a second. So we have, why are the docking areas so massive? And I'm going to compound that in with why there is a difference in the docking areas on the ground and in space, should we say, or on a planet and in space. So the docking mechanic also has a technical implication for us on the back end, where a construct is always attached to something, and be that space or be that another ship, shall we say. And when you're in the proximity of another ship, those two need to connect together. Now, when we're on Alioth, for example, or on any planet, the attachment to the planet is really easily made there, and it's not quite as important to stay attached to to a potentially moving construct. Where, for example, if we have a construct in space, when you're trying to dock to a space station, we want to give more boundary area to that to allow for a more easy and seamless transition into that, and to not float away because you're slightly too far away from the building, but you want to stay with the construct. So that was the decision for us to have it slightly different on planet to space station. And I forget the third question. Can you run that past me again?
Yes. Why did you decide on the current docking mechanisms where you can seamlessly fly in and out of the area without an optional lock in the docking area for constructs? And it says leaving the docking area would then become explicit, allowing some on-the-move shenanigans that are not possible now or before.
I love that word, shenanigans.
Yes.
I love the word shenanigans. That's really good. I need to use that more often now.
Yeah.
That's going to be my new feature on the background of one of my images. There'll be a little mouse
one of your
standing there
next,
holding up
no more shenanigans. It's going to be in the
No
next,
more
meeting.
shenanigans. That's it.
Nice. Look forward to that.
So the reason we elected for that, the automatic system, is that they're to be able to fly in and out of an area as such. That's simply down to the mode that the docking mechanism is set in. By auto mode, it tries to alleviate the amount of shenanigans required. Now, I may be wrong here because I haven't personally tested this much with Lua, but I'm sure there's a way in Lua that we can detect when you fly into an area, and if you wanted to not immediately undock, to just switch to manual mode as soon as you're in a docked area, and then that should prevent you from flying out. That would just require a little bit of internal changing of some Lua code, but I don't see that that's not possible, but I may be wrong. If I am wrong, feel free to pull me up on it in a message.
Well, I'm sure you're wrong on something.
forums.
I just can't pinpoint exactly what it is right now.
Yeah. That can be my reason for firing Deckard next Wednesday. So yeah,
Okay.
get those comments in
I
fast.
think we're gonna start scaring people. That's a joke. We're not firing Deckard. Don't worry.
No,
I have to say the docking revamp. That's being a long standing topic. We thought that the docking revamp would have come out a lot sooner. Actually, we put out a dev blog like months ago, if I'm not mistaken, where we explained our intentions, and it really took a while. So it's, for a lot of reasons, it's a complicated topic. We are happy with the fact that we are moving this, we think, in the right direction. It's better than it used to be, because the primary purpose here was really trying to stop the exploits, right? Because that were really, there was a lot of griefing happening, and it wasn't very funny. So as often, and as we said before, we realized that this is a feature that could be improved, that will get better over time. But we think, we hope we fixed a major problem with docking, and that was our priority right now.
Right, this is for people who are new and may have recently come in and weren't aware of what this issue was. A quick answer is, you have a ship parked somewhere, I would sneak on it, I would log out, and then later you would come in and you'd be flying your ship and you wouldn't know you had a stowaway. But all of a sudden, and I'm loaded up, so I'm adding all this weight to your ship, which affects how you can fly it. And it was just a problem where you would have these stowaways that you might even, you wouldn't even know that they were there. And then they would suddenly appear and cause problems for you.
And they would act like beacons.
Shut the gate on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they would act like beacons on other people's constructs.
Right. So they could let their buddies know, hey, dude's over here, come shoot him.
Yeah, and there was nothing that you could do about it. So we wanted to empower. It's not so much that we don't like the idea of having a spy on board a ship or people boarding things. That's not the issue here. The issue was that there was no counterplay to it. Right. There was nothing somebody on board a ship could do to counteract it, other than take the entire construct apart and put it back together in hopes that this person doesn't jump back onto it before they take off. It's not something we want to have in the game in that particular loop, so that's why we have the new mechanics.
It's your ship, you get to say who's on it.
Great explanation, guys. So we're actually going to move to the last question. This is almost over. So that's a tricky one. It's not specifically a question that was asked, I think, for this Q&A, but we thought we needed to.
We see it often enough.
Yeah, we see it often enough, and that's an intense topic of discussion. inside the company. It's the topic of wipes. So, will there be a wipe at launch? Is the question that we are being asked a lot. So, that is a very good question. And the truth is, we have been, we've been in beta for over a year now, and we are still going to be in beta for a few more months. And we've been making a lot of changes to the game. In the economy in particular, we've made some mistakes as well, and some mistakes that have had an impact on the economy. So there are really two opposite thought processes happening at the same time in the company. That's the reason why you haven't had an answer yet on the wipe. The one is because of all these changes and these exploits and etc. And we know in a couple of instances, a couple of players have gotten rich because of these exploits, and it's kind of screwed up the economy a little bit. We know that we want to do something about that when we launch the game, okay? To really try and have a clean slate as much as possible. On the other hand, we also want to acknowledge the time and the time and the investment that players made into building what Dual Universe is today, with all these constructs and, the wealth that they've accumulated, their talent points that they accumulated over time. So it's not an easy topic. It is absolutely not an easy topic because on the one hand, we want to do something about, in particular, the economy at some point. And on the other hand, we want to respect the time and investment that players have put in the game. And that's why it is such an intense topic and subject of conversation in the company. So we're trying to come to grasp, thank you. Come to grasp with those two completely opposite sides of that story, I guess, and come up with something that we think is fair for the players. And we have not yet found the right solution, but we are trying to come up with one as soon as possible and tell you guys as soon as we know. So we're not trying to hide anything. We're not voluntarily silent on the topic. It's just that we're trying to discuss the best way to approach this, and it's a hot topic. And I want to say, actually, Pann has a system where every time somebody says the word wipe in a meeting, we have to give her $5 on our PayPal account. And
Yep.
I think at this point, she's probably rich enough that she can retire on an island somewhere in the Pacific. Because
I'll never tell.
You'll never tell. Okay. And will you ever tell if other people are contributing other than me as well?
No.
No? Okay.
No. What happens in Pantasia stays in Pantasia.
Okay, that's good.
But I just wanted to state, you talked about how, there's no definitive answer, and there've been discussions that sometimes can get kind of heated, just within the company itself. That is reflected in the community too. We see both sides of the coin here. There are some people who are completely in favor of it, and then there are some people who are bitterly opposed. So it's, the two groups are aligned in that, and there's just no right answer at this point.
And the two groups are represented in the company as well. So you can imagine the meetings when we discuss the topic, they're kind of a little bit like Discord at times.
They're quite heated.
Yes.
So that concludes our series of questions. So we tried something a little different here. I know it's probably longer to listen to this than just to read the answers on the forums, but we thought, these were good questions that might be a little bit more fun and entertaining to watch. Plus, you got to see Pann and Deckard. I mean, that's like priceless. That's absolutely priceless. So thank you, everybody who contributed to this Q&A. Thank you to our players for asking questions and, good, interesting, relevant questions. We hope to be following up in the coming weeks and months on the topics where, unfortunately, we had to say at some point, later. And let us know in the comments. I'm sure there will be a forum thread to comment on this little video, what you thought of it, if you want to see more of that, or if you just want the straight up answers in the forums. We can do both. We had fun doing this, and we hope you had fun watching it as well. And, if you like it, maybe we'll do more of these live Q&As. Thank you, Pann. Thank you,
It's live
Deckard.
for us. It's not live for them. But yes, we know what you mean.
Yeah, not live really, but in person or in virtual person, I guess. So
Right.
thank you guys. Thanks for being here today, and talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
See you all later.